Okay, so it's day 4 of the When Money Destroys Nations Zimbabwe saga. So I'm going to go into probably my last section out of this book that I'm going to read for you folks. So this is an interesting one. I made this little note in here called losing the peg, losing your standard that you measure. You'll hear me talk about standards, like how the dollar is not a standard. And it really isn't. The dollar is not a solid measurement. It's a measurement that's flexible and it changes all the time. Which is weird. I mean, how do you measure with something that, right, that doesn't measure? I'm going to have some commentary after this to do with that and what I'm about to reveal in this part of the book. So, um, this is a quote: "If you can't benchmark, how can you possibly know what your margins are?" CEO of a large Zimbabwean importing firm. So, in the hyperinflationary environment, those who run businesses would need to find a way to record transactions based on a stable measurement. Now, I just told you that the dollar is not a stable measurement anyway, but it's stable enough, but it's just unstable enough to rob you constantly. This book is an example of when that gets out of control, so it becomes so obvious how it robs you quickly. Um, they would need to find a yardstick of value. There's that value word again. It must be a relatively stable benchmark. I've said this before, for recording transactions and ideally be used by other businesses as well. Yeah, it has to be something universal. In Zimbabwe, people used all kinds of yardsticks from fuel to food parcels and gold to US dollars. One economist, Jonathan Waters, even developed a hard boiled egg index to obtain a more accurate measure of inflation and the exchange rate from what was reported in the official statistics. This index became quite popular even in banking financial circles. So even the banks and the financial circles were struggling, obviously, to find some sort of a benchmark to pin everything to so they could figure out values and margins. Pensions. Hyperinflation reduced almost all pension savings to nothing, even large amounts saved in the pension funds. Expect that your pension investments would either be reduced to nothing or nationalized. So this is from a financial advisor in Zimbabwe. So this is the last thing I'm going to say here, and then I'm going to make some comments on it, or last section I'm going to read. A financial advisor in Zimbabwe had this to say: "If I was advising Zimbabwean pensioners prior to the country's currency collapse, I would have said the following: cash in your pension policies. If you are on a pension, move into something worthwhile. Pension schemes will not remedy themselves. If you have any fixed income positions, they will reduce to nothing in hyperinflation. You need to go against all Western views of savings and storing money in cash and bonds. Convert all of your cash and savings into things that store value and in things that you will need to survive. Both government and private pensions will not save you." I actually did a YouTube video promoting um, a conference we did here in Oshawa where I actually talked about that. I said your $5,000 a month pension may not save you because values are relative. So, I mean, that's a great sales pitch right there for the industry and we're in, which is gold and silver. Convert yourself. But I mean, one of the things I read in this book, and I think we read it on one of the previous videos I did on it, was people were more interested in food and clothing. I mean, they didn't care about frivolities. They just wanted food and clothing because when things get this difficult, people are interested in the basics of survival. And so those with foresight, to see that this has the potential. As I've said, the likelihood I think of us going into a Zimbabwe level hyperinflation is probably, well, it's not completely off the table. I don't think it's the first likelihood, but this is an extreme situation. I mean, we have plenty of middle of the road type inflationary environments currently right now in the world that are just destroying people's lives. Just look at Venezuela if you don't believe me. Venezuela is a classic case of it. It's been going on for quite a while now. I mean, I think I said last time they were at 437% inflation yearly. Like that will wipe out your any positions you have in a few, less than 5 years for the most part, because that compounding on itself is just going to take away all your value. So, I mean, going by what the fella said here, you'd want to put it into gold and silver, for example, because, well, why? Because gold and silver can be resold later on for um, food, clothing, shelter, whatever you need. Things like Bitcoin as well could probably be transacted in. I know there are places right now that are having a renaissance using Bitcoin. El Salvador is having a renaissance with Bitcoin because it's a type of a hard asset. It doesn't have the history gold and silver does, but it's a good hard asset. And the main thing, one of the things I've picked up from reading, I have to find a passage to validate this, but I've read other things about hyperinflations like this, various different ones where gold picks up a lot of the increase in value in these hyperinflations. So it can be used to offset some of your losses that would occur on paper. I mean, gold is a real thing. It's also, because it's been our money at a time, silver particularly has been our money. I mean, if you haven't seen pre-67, I always carry one in my pocket, pre-67 silver coins. There's a dollar there. There's an old 50-cent piece. I carry them around in my my pocket as a kind of a good luck charm, I guess. Not really, just to remind me of, and I like to show them to people too and talk about why silver is important. But I think because silver and gold have been money or currency, they've been used as a currency. They are money by definition. Because they've been used as a currency, it's easy to equate that dollar with a paper dollar or a digital dollar, but they're not the same thing because it's made of silver, which is a valuable metal. The ones we get now are made of nickel and zinc, which is a very, very cheap metal. In fact, the metal is much cheaper than the face value of the currency they exist on. Like if you take a loonie and cash in the metal in that loonie, you'd be lucky to get a tenth of a cent, in my opinion. So you can use that as a currency, but once you put something in a currency form like this, that is also a valuable metal because it's rare, eventually the value of the metal itself in the currency outpaces the currency itself. And that's the whole point. I'm going to do that. The next video I'm going to do is going to be something that was a demonstration I did with a dollar like this from 1963 and a loonie, and I'm going to buy gas. I bought gas with them. I actually did a demonstration at the talk I did, the same conference I just mentioned a minute ago, where I showed the difference in what you actually get from buying gas with that versus a loonie. And it's quite substantial. And what it does is it proves why silver and gold maintain value and hold value during these times when currencies lose their, as I said, the dollar is not a fixed measurement. It loses value. Each dollar loses value, and it tends to lose it consistently. Like there's a lot of people will mention the fact that the U.S. dollar has lost about 98% of its purchasing power since the day it was created with the new Federal Reserve back in the early 1900s, and that's true. It has. That's just an insidious devaluation of your currency. That's an inevitable consequence of using something that's not a standard. Silver is measured in ounces, which are a standard. The standard comports to gravity, which is relatively constant. That's how weights work. They use gravity as the downward pull against some sort of a measuring device is how they work. So they are an actual standard because the ounce is a fixed thing that we all agree on, and we actually have a standard ounce somewhere in a vault that we can go and say, hey, if we lose the peg, like I talked about in here, see, they lose the peg because the dollar isn't the standard. So they had to go to a hard-boiled egg, a real thing. So this is the conundrum. This is a very difficult subject for people to get their mind around. I can see the deer in headlights look when I'm trying to explain it to people. So this is why I go to such great lengths to try to get this foundation for people, because once you get this and you have it in here and have it in here, you can't be tricked anymore with this dollar game. So anyway, I'm going to make an appeal to ask people to share the videos again. I think this information is useful for people. There's a lot of people are going to get destroyed in this. They're already getting destroyed, never mind going to. I mean, every day I'm talking to people that are getting wiped out slowly but surely by this upcoming financial crisis, which is just in the beginning phases right now. And if you share this with the right person at the right time, you could save them from a catastrophe. So share this information out there if you don't mind, folks. Get it out to as many people as you know and see if it strikes a chord with them and they can take some steps. I mean, even if they don't do business with us, at least I just feel good about knowing people take some steps to defend themselves, because the stronger we all are in our, our financial world, the stronger we are together. If you're the only guy on a pile of money in a world of people in desperation, it's not a great place to be. So we all need to try to stand up and do the best we can going forward, so I have a stronger relationship with each other in the world, and a better world to live in. So all of this stuff goes much farther than I mean, we live in a society where, yeah, money can't buy you love and money can't buy you happiness and all those tropes that are out there. But the fact of the matter is, money is a universal tool that we all need, because we don't support ourselves by taking things out of the earth anymore and living on a piece of land. We specialize, and we all do our thing, and we rely on everybody relies on everybody, because we're all just making components of this big machine that we're involved in. And so we need this medium of exchange. Currency is an extremely important subject. Some very important people have said it's the most important subject intellectual people can discuss. So one way you can help with that is share it with other people and start the discussion. So if you could do that for me, I would appreciate it. Thanks very much for your time. Have a great day.